Hello and welcome to No Wrong Choices, the podcast that explores the career journeys of accomplished and inspiring people to uncover secrets of success. I'm Larry Samuel, soon to be joined by the other fellas, Tushar Saxena and Larry Shea. If you are a new listener or have been enjoying our show and haven't done this yet, please support No Wrong Choices by following us on your favorite podcasting platform, giving us a 5-star rating where you can, connecting with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X, or by dropping us a line via our website at NoWrongChoices.com, where you can also learn a little bit more about us. This episode features the financial planner Lou Cannataro. Lou has 30 years of experience. He's based in New York City. He has 9 advanced degrees, and he is the owner of a very, very successful practice. He's also deeply involved with Alzheimer's, and we will dig into that as the conversation goes on. Larry Shea is, why don't you lead us into this one?
I thought you were going to give me the, clearly, since you're the wealthiest and most successful of all of us.
I paused on that one for that reason.
Because it didn't fit at all.
I didn't know how you would react.
I'm excited about this conversation. I often think about financial planners. I have one myself. I have a great relationship with him. He takes me to play at his country club, which I can't thank him enough. I'll thank him publicly on this podcast. They mean a lot to us because it is a very personal thing, and I'm really thinking that it's not about the numbers, that it's about the people. It's about relationships, and it's about helping people at their best moments and their weakest moments. And so I'm hoping that's a lot about what we're going to hear from Lou today. I don't know Lou. I've done my research, and he seems like beyond successful. So super excited to hear about somebody who is one of the best in their field and at a subject that I obviously know very, very little about.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of us but know very, very little about it. And look, let's be honest, this could be a boring interview, but the whole idea is, can finance be fun? And that's what we hope to figure out here with Lou, because we've all seen the shows like Billions, we've all seen Wall Street, we've all seen Greed is Good. And in many senses, we're all scared by that. Movies like The Big Short, which talk about the idea of the financial collapse. But at the end of the day, we are all still giving our money to people who we want to say, we trust this guy to help us build wealth over years. We trust this man with our money, right? That's really what this is all about. It's all about a business of trust in many senses, because they really do, in many senses, hold our future in their hands.
Absolutely. And, I should, bring up the fact that, Lou is my financial planner, so I do know him incredibly well. And
you're doing pretty well.
And things are going okay.
You should have started off this interview, apparently.
Yeah, what the hell?
But, the reason why I chose to bring him in is that he's a character. He's extremely good at what he does. And I trust him. He is like a therapist in a lot of ways, and our relationship is very unique. It is not a financial one. It is very much a personal one. So, with that, as I wanted to build upon that thought for a moment, as a business person, I'm really eager to hear how Lou got started, because it's a very difficult business to break into. How do you set up your practice? You hear horror stories of people walking into the field with no job, no money, no clients, go. What does that look like? Well, Lou's going to tell us. Here is Lou Cannataro. Lou, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, especially after this Springsteen summer. Nice to come visit with you guys.
You know what? We actually got, Larry Samuels and I got to see Springsteen on Labor Day. We got to see him on Labor Day. So yeah,
September 3rd.
It was great. We got to see the Jersey show. So absolutely, Springsteen summer. Lou, for those who don't know out there, the world of finance is a bit nebulous, a bit mysterious. What exactly do you do?
Well, we are a multifamily office. So for our clients' family, we help them grow, manage, and protect their wealth. And just as important, we efficiently and effectively move it to the next generation. We call that bridging generational wealth. And we've been doing that now for over 30 years.
So very simply, you're a financial planner. You work with people who come in, they lay out their dreams or goals and aspirations, and ultimately you help them get there.
Right. We take a look at everything that they're trying to accomplish. What have they done in the past? What are they trying to accomplish in the future? And we put it all together and we lay out the plan. We execute and we keep them on track.
Lou, at full disclosure, I am not a Bruce Springsteen fan. I fear we're starting off on the wrong foot here. No, I'm totally teasing. But I want to know about your dream. I want to know how this all began. I want to take you back to the beginning. Tell me what your childhood was like, what you wanted to do. Was this always the goal, or was there something else in mind?
Hell no. Who knew? Sometimes I feel like I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Of course.
Right? Originally born and bred in the Bronx, and I don't know if any of you guys know the Bronx.
I was born in the Bronx myself, Pelham Bay.
There you go.
I go to about 20 games a year.
Yeah, right. The Yankees. Well, I'm from Riverdale in the Bronx. And so, if because we got clients across the country. So if I'm visiting and I tell them I'm from the Bronx, they're like, oh my God. I'm like, no. Listen, Bronx is a very nice place to grow up.
Beautiful. Come on.
And live. Yeah. And now, but if someone's from the Bronx and they say, where in the Bronx? And I'll say Riverdale, they're like, that's not the Bronx. Right? Like,
that was my reaction as you said that.
Right. And so born and bred in the Bronx, and so is my wife, Colette. She's actually originally from Fordham Road, and then Fordham, the neighborhood, we got bad over the years, and she moved up like a block away when she was like 14. And that's where we actually went to college at the College of Mount St. Vincent, which is in the Bronx, in Riverdale, right there, and also Manhattan College. That's where I did my MBA in finance. So it all began in the Bronx, and Colette I would see walking down the street because she lived down the block. But our first gig was working at McDonald's, and that's where it all started.
Wow. So you guys have been together since you were what, like 14, 15, 16, whatever it was?
Well, yeah, we worked together, and we finally started going out, and we were just about 18 years old.
A true Bronx tale.
18.
A true Bronx tale.
Yeah, we've been together now, God, it's 41 years. Like we're married, I think we're married 36 now. We went out for 6 years.
Wow.
It took me that long to close the deal.
So, Lou, when you're growing up in the Bronx, Riverdale, a.k.a. the Bronx, what are you dreaming of? You've got the Yankees around the corner. Like, what did the young Lou dream about becoming as a kid?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't have any dreams about becoming anything in the beginning, right? It was... I have to tell you, growing up in the Bronx was the best. You would walk down that block and literally there would be at least 30 kids playing in the street because all the houses very close to each other. A lot of Irish families. So I had two older brothers, but most of the families, they might have had 6 to 8 kids. And so it was all about having a good time. Going to school, average student in high school at best, and even in college, I did well, but there was no big focus just yet. I look at myself as a typical kid, and I didn't have like any huge dreams other than to enjoy myself. I don't know about you guys. Were you guys all focused when you were young?
No.
I was. I'm barely focused now.
Well, listen,
I was.
I could BS you three and say that I was very focused and saw this all coming, but that wasn't the case.
I think I was unhealthily focused.
So then, what did your father do? What were your parents like? I mean, obviously, as you said, you had a very idyllic kind of childhood. So what were your parents like? What were their jobs?
Yeah, well, so my pop died when I was 8. So he had diabetes. He got an infection in his foot, and in a week he was gone. So
wow.
Now, and by the way, my mom did an unbelievable job, and growing up, I didn't think I missed anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's how good of a job that she did. And then it wasn't until I started having kids, and I remember, distinctly, I was laying down with my oldest, putting them to bed. And I remember laying down and I was talking to him, and then I realized, like, holy cow, I didn't have any of this. Like, it didn't hit me to years later. So my mother, she went back to work. She wasn't working, and she went back to work. And for her, she worked out at the College of Mount St. Vincent, right, which was down the block,
Sure.
In the Bronx. And then she would walk if you guys know, you may not know the school, but it's a beautiful school down on the Hudson River. But it's all the way downhill, right on the river. So she would walk from the house all the way down, and then when I would come home for lunch, she'd walk back up just to make me lunch and then go back down.
Wow.
And she taught me about commitment and always showing up and being there. And that woman worked. She retired, I think, like at 68, and then she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she was gone in 3 months. Unbelievable. But she is probably one of the most. I had a big influence in my life, and again, something I didn't realize or put together till much later in life.
So what did you learn from her? Perseverance, hard work, dedication. Like, what are you talking about? And your siblings. What were your siblings like? How many did you have, and what was that like?
Yeah, so the two older brothers, right? So, but Gene, my oldest, had 10 years on me, and Frank had 8. And good thing abortion wasn't big back then, right?
Right.
Like, because I was a surprise.
I was about to say that. It sounds like you were surprised.
Yeah. And so, but when you think about it, when my pop passed away, I was 8. These guys were just on the verge of leaving.
Right, they were adults by this point. Yeah, they're adults.
Yeah, so pretty soon, Gene got married and left. And then Frank went, he was in college, and then him and 3 guys got in a 69 Mustang, went out to the West Coast, and never came back. The other 3 eventually came back. He started his own electrician business out there. And I remember, I used to go out and visit during the summers for 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month at a time. Fabulous trips out there. And I remember asking him, hey, when are you going to come back? And he used to look at me and go, well, why would I come back? And, part of me was being sentimental, but, San Diego's beautiful, right? and he's still out there all these years. So good relationship with him, but distant.
Yeah.
And so it was, and again, when you start to think about these things, it's like, God, my pop passed away, my brothers left. So it was just mom and me. And, she taught me, you move on and just to always be there and always be present. And she didn't say much. She'd listen, but she wouldn't say much. And that also taught me, especially now in what I do for a living, it's all about listening. It's not about talking.
So Lou, you're at St. Vincent and you're taking classes, you're exploring, you're enjoying college life. Was there a moment where you started to gravitate towards something? And what was that, and what path did that set you on?
Well, it was all about making money, right? Because there was no money in the family. And so whatever, and this goes for Colette's family as well, right? Now, Colette, both parents were alive, but still, neither one of us came from money. So if we wanted something, we had to go and make it happen. So it was all about work. When I went to school, we didn't, we weren't staying on campus. We worked all through college. And this is how I got into ABC. I was a page during my college years. Now, again, my dad is tied into that because my dad was a stage director for Eyewitness News.
Yeah.
And so that was our in at ABC. And that's where Gene, my oldest brother, he started working there, and he retired out of there after I think it was almost 40 years.
Wow.
So being a page was dynamite. Right.
So Lou, before you dig too far into that, I know what an NBC page is from having watched 30 Rock. What is an ABC page?
Yeah, and we were the lower end, right? Because NBC was always it seemed like the better page job. So what it was, I would give ABC my school schedule for the semester. So if I didn't have any classes in the morning, I would get assigned GMA, Good Morning America. So I'd have to, get there like at 5 o'clock in the morning. We would greet the guests, bring them into the green room, bring them to the stage, and after they're done, bring them back, and then get them back into the limousine. We worked all of the best parties. And Larry, in the business, like we work the upfront parties.
Yep, sure.
Which were like unbelievable. And now listen, you got a kid from the Bronx. I never seen shrimp that big in my life, right? And we did, like, they had FDR. They did a show for FDR. We're in these townhouses, in the city. We used to work the stockholders meetings when Elton Rule and Leonard Goldenson was there. I mean, it was dynamite. And so, fantastic job. That, by the way, paid well. And we just worked while we had a good time, while we went to school.
So now I know you're in college at this point. How old are you at this point?
So 18.
So this is like freshman year of college.
Yeah.
So did you have the pages position throughout college?
Yes.
Oh my God, that must have been awesome. My God.
I have to tell you, it was because think of all the people that we met. All the stars and whatnot. But we weren't starstruck. It was a job. You know what I mean? Like
that's kind of what leads me to my next question. Like some of the stars that you came across. Now I understand it because after a while you do it enough, it becomes kind of every day. But there had to have been at least one or two stars. The first time you saw them, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
You know what? I never. Springsteen wasn't around then. In terms of on television. So no, there was nobody that I was like, no, listen, on the music side, I remember there was one party we were working and Billy Idol was there. And let me put it this way, he came in hot, right?
Oh, boy.
He was having a good time.
He was Billy Idol, for God's sakes.
He was Billy Idol, right. So I really don't have, I wasn't starstruck. So nothing really, it was a job. It was just that. It was a job. They were just regular people that happened to be famous.
I love that though. What did it teach you? It must have taught you something, how to speak to somebody with confidence, how to handle yourself with confidence, how to be comfortable in a room no matter who was there. There had to be lessons there that you're learning and picking up that are going to help you in your further career.
Oh yeah, because we're in anything you do. If you're whatever you're doing, your job, work, throwing a party, whatever, you got to pay attention to the details.
Yeah.
Right. So any assignment we had, especially when it was going to be a big party, or they knew we got to handle the talent, it was like they would line us up and be like, all right, listen, don't screw this up. Right. Here's who's going to be here. This is what you got to do. All right, listen, you guys can have a good time, but it's later. And so what it taught us was like, we got a lot of responsibility because there was in Radio City Music Hall, I think it was the night of the 100 stars. So one of my jobs, and I forget who I had with me. There was like 3 or 4 people that I were responsible for. And I had to get them to the point at the stage where, where you can step in and it comes up from underneath.
Oh,
right?
Sure,
a riser, one of the risers, yeah.
Yeah, and so now imagine if I screwed that up. but they're leaving this to an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old.
A lot of responsibility, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And thank God, knock on wood, we didn't screw anything up. Right?
And you didn't kill anybody.
We didn't kill anybody.
That's the most important thing. Don't kill anybody.
Right. And, it was, and again, you didn't realize, like, we really could have made some major problems for many people. But we didn't. And you know what? They they trusted us, and I guess there was a reason that they trusted us. It was, by the way, the job wasn't easy to get.
Yeah.
Right. So God knows how I got it. Well, maybe I do know, right? Because of my dad, because of my brother. So,
You did have a connection.
I had a connection. But you know what? If I wasn't performing, I would have been out.
So how did you grow with them?
Well, so the cool part is you get to meet everybody within the television network, right? And so when you finally graduate school, now you're looking for that full-time job. And so you're exposed to the inner openings. And so once I graduated, I got a job, and then progressed through the company as best I could as time went on. And it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't that difficult. I think because I was looking from the inside, and they already knew who I was.
Yeah. So as you're growing with the company, ultimately we know that you pivot elsewhere. So as you're growing with the company, did it always feel like a job? Did you feel like there was a future? Was there something that you were excited about, or was something missing?
So it was a job. Listen, I got to make more money. I want to progress. And I was. I was getting promoted, getting into the lower level management. But understand, I think my first job, I forget, but I think maybe it was like 18 grand. Do you know what I mean? Like, income wise, we weren't knocking the cover off the ball, but, making money, having nice benefits, and doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And then as things progressed at ABC, they would pay for your education if you wanted to go back for a master's. Right. So I'm sitting there thinking like, OK, if they're paying me by then, maybe it was $23,000. Like, well, wait a minute. If I go to school, that costs a lot of money. Oh, hell, I'm going to let them pay for it. And so I went back for my master's, and I did marketing. And I did finance. I actually got 2 masters. Now, why? Well, because I remember being in there and I'm like, well, finance will apply to anything. Let me do finance. And marketing, if I ever start my business, I got to know marketing. And I remember being in the college and they're like, well, that's like twice as expensive. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. I got it.
And not paying for it.
Right. Because and back then, I think I was the last one through the system, literally. Back then, you had to get a B or better, and they paid for it, and they paid for the whole thing. God love them. Yeah.
So you just said something about, if I start my business, I need to know something about marketing. Now, does that mean that along the way you were thinking about starting a business, and what was that business?
I don't think about starting a business. I did realize, and still today, I'm not a corporate guy, right? Like, I need to be doing something. I'll tend not to follow rules that well if they don't seem to make sense to me. And as we progressed, and Larry, if you remember the business, at lunchtime, 12 to 2, nothing got done in that industry back then.
Yep.
A 2-hour lunch.
With martinis.
The martini lunch.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it was just unbelievable. Unproductive, but unbelievable. And so I can remember saying to the person I reported to after a while, like, hey, listen, I'm going to go home now. And he's like, well, what do you mean you're going to go home? I said, there's nothing to do. What are we doing? I'm just going to go home. I'm sitting here, and I'll use a term that many of your listeners may not be able to relate to. I'm going through my Rolodex, calling people just to have chats. Do you know what I mean? And that's something that just drives me nuts. Like, if I'm not being productive, I'm wasting time. I can't waste time. And I think part of that all goes back to, my pop passing away early. How much time do we have on this planet? I don't want to waste a minute.
Is that what then spurred you to start your financial services company? This notion of wanting to help family?
No. Initially it was like, okay, I got to progress. we had a child coming. Lewis, there's 5 kids, right? So Lewis was coming, and before Lewis was coming, I was like, all right, we've got to really, I got to make things happen here, right? How are we going to have a life? I think initially the motivation was fear and fear of how am I going to provide, right? And make this all happen. And I think that was the motivator. It's like, all right, after I get my MBAs, what am I going to do with this? And I have to tell you, like, I graduated with the MBAs. Lewis was born, and I took a 6-month leave. Now, and God bless Colette, my wife, she was working. She was a sales assistant at Lazard Frere in the city. So we had income coming from her. We had benefits. But think of I looking back, there's no way now that I would ever do that again. Right?
Yeah,
because
of course not. Yeah.
I'm taking a 6-month leave knowing that not coming back, and I'm going to go find, the business. I'm going to go find something to do because I really got to make way more money than what I'm doing at the moment.
So you didn't know what the business was yet?
No. No.
So during that 6-month period of time is when you figured things out.
Yeah. Now I did have I'm thinking finance, right? I'm thinking, okay, this is where I've got maybe the potential to really earn a living, if you will, right? And if you guys have ever looked for jobs, and if you ever look in the world of finance, that they're always, and now I'm talking about sales, right? In finance, right?
Right.
In this industry, the turnover ratio is over 90%.
Wow.
Right? It's crazy. Like if they got 10 people in a training class, they're happy if 2 were still around after 8 weeks, and if 1 is still there a year later, right? It's very intense. But when you're looking for a job and you raise your hand, oh my God, everybody's calling, right? You think because you look so good to them, but you're just a number. Right?
Use the body,
you know what
right?
I mean?
Use the body. Right?
Yeah, right? Because they got to go 10-3-1, right? They got to talk to 10 people, 3 will give it a shot, and maybe 1's going to last. And so I'm down. Now, by the way, we are now for years. So when we got married, I wanted to buy something, right? And I don't know if you guys remember, this is back 85. It was the real estate markets like it is today. It was a very hot market, and anything near the city was just crazy expensive. Everybody was buying co-ops, but I didn't want to live in an apartment building. You know where we ended up? We ended up down in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
No
I don't
kidding.
know if you guys know Newtown, right? Which absolutely beautiful down there. And because we were looking in Jersey, further you go out, like you can get something. And so we get this like townhouse down there, and it was dynamite, but it was like a 2-hour and change commute each way.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And as kids, we didn't even check what the train ticket cost. And when we first looked at the monthly, it was like $120 each. Now remember, that's, now we're talking like 1991 or so, right? When, it was, it was probably 87, somewhere in there. Like that was a lot of money. And it was just like but that train ride, and now listen, it's Colette and I coming back and forth. I was still working at ABC. And so that's where I did a lot of my studying, was on the train.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Because so I had that downtime and I was doing something.
Right.
And then I would hit the classes while I was up here, hit the classes at night. But it was, that was torture. But we were lucky though.
Yeah, Lou, I just have to ask, because you mentioned early on when we were talking, you weren't a great student, but obviously you had to get the B for them to pay for the education and so forth. So I guess I have 2 questions right here before we kick off on like what's about to be your rocketing career, which is, were you good at the financial stuff? Were you a good
Oh,
student at this point, and did you enjoy it? I think more importantly. Yeah.
When you go to grad school, I was tuned in because it all meant something.
Right.
Right. College was like, I'm just learning stuff like high school, maybe a little bit higher level. Like, is any of this going to apply? But when you're going to grad school, it's like, oh, no, this is, oh my God, I'm dialed in.
You were dialed in.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, grad school. Yeah, I was getting A's. I did a very good job in my MBAs. That's for sure. And listen, in college, I think I graduated with a 3.2, right? Which is, it's okay, right?
Yep.
It's a B. You got
it's a B.
Yeah, right.
It means you showed up.
I showed up, right? But this is what I try to tell the young people. It's like, listen, college, you'll learn stuff, but you know what it is? You just show people that you can show up somewhere for 4 years and get it done.
That's right.
Exactly. So, Lou, you got all that stuff behind you. You started to talk about the process of going into, one of these financial institutions. There are a ton of people walking in the door, nobody sticking. Is that what you did next? Was that your step into this world?
Yes. Right. My 6-month leave, Colette would be doing the commute to work. I stayed down in PA and hung out with Lewis, and then I was looking while I was down there. I even took him on an interview or two with me, and that's where I began. I began down in Philadelphia, and then after I think maybe 24 months, I said to Colette, like, okay, we got to go back up because all of the business, all of the contacts were back up here in the city.
Yep.
So I was working Philadelphia and the New York market, going back and forth, staying overnight. It was torture. But eventually I said to Colette, okay, we got to move back up. And she could have not packed her bags fast enough because, her parents were back up here. Everything was back up here.
So what is that process at the beginning? I mean, do you walk in with no clients, no nothing, like straight commission? Like what is your life when you walk into that role?
Yeah, there is no base pay. There's nothing. If they initially gave you a desk without rent, and that was it. You had to pay for the phone. You had to pay for everything.
You have nothing.
Had nothing. And keep in mind now, I've got to tell Colette this. And more importantly, and if Colette was in on this conversation, she's the one, I'm the one that had to answer to your mother, because my mother would be like, one, I'm leaving ABC, right? So I'm leaving the family business, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? I'm leaving ABC. And she would say to Colette, now, explain this to me. He's leaving and he doesn't have a pay, and there's no benefits.
Apparently, your mother has spoken to my mother on many occasions.
And, now understand, Colette's scared enough as it is, right? And my mother's speaking logic, right? And Colette's like, I don't know. Talk to Lou. So you start out and you start with nothing. And you've got to build it from there. Now, the one thing that I did have, and there's actually two things that are very different then than now. So one, I had all my contacts back up in the media industry, right? So I'm not fresh out of school. Like, I'm fresh out of my MBA, but not out of college, right? So I got some years under my belt where people knew me. And I said, hey, listen, I finished up my MBA. I'm starting the business. I want to come and tell you what the hell I'm doing and how I may be of some help. All right. And we're off to the races.
So how long did it take you to, let's say, land your first client? And what was that experience like? Like, how long did it take you to land that first client?
Yeah, for the first client is always and I do think my sister-in-law, Anne, was the first person that actually did some work with me, right? So those are kind of like they're helping out.
Right.
right. But you know what I mean? I think that the first non-family member, might have been in like 4 weeks, maybe took a month. But God, in the beginning, how many appointments did I have to go on? And in the beginning, luckily I didn't have to make that many cold calls, right? Because I had many people that I could reach out to. But still in the beginning, you had to make some cold calls, right? Because you gotta, I always had two piles, right? The cold calls and then the people that I know. And I was not bashful at all, meaning anytime I met somebody, I always asked them, hey, help me out, help my business grow. Who else do you know that I should be talking to? And I have to tell you, people are good, and especially New Yorkers. They when you ask for help, they normally will help. And by the way, if you did a good job for them, if you had confidence in what you're doing, I wasn't bashful asking because I know I would do a good job, and people gave me referrals. And then you have to stay consistent. You have to stay active. It's all about activity. And there's this person, Al Granum. He passed away now, but he had a system, and it was 100-point system. And so for every activity each day, you got a point, right? So if you had an appointment, you got a point. If you were able to do a fact find, which is gather info and whatnot, you got another point. If you broke bread, if you had a meal with them, you got a point. And every referral, you got a half a point. And the goal was to get 100 points a month. And I delivered 100 points and then some every freaking month.
Wow.
And it's not easy. And I have to tell you, I remember, talking to in the beginning, they would, the person that's trying to help you out, your mentor, if you will, right? Like, oh, you're killing it. This is going to really be fantastic. I'm like, listen, the mortgage company doesn't take points, right? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the answer was, you keep doing what you're doing. I guarantee you that this will become a successful business.
So how old are you at this point? Now, we've kind of danced around a little bit, but how old are you at this point?
So I am 26.
All right, so that's why you have so much energy to jump all over the place.
Oh my
You're not
God!
30 yet.
No, right. I'm 26 and I'm ready to go.
All right, so you've kind of thrown your shingle out there a little bit to get yourself up and running. How long was it, would you say, before you, let's say, got yourself to a point where you were more than breaking even?
Yeah, or not quitting once a week.
Yes, exactly. Let's go there.
Or being told to quit once a week.
Not wanting to kill yourself once a week. Okay, we'll go there.
Yeah. So it in the beginning it's very tough, but here's the deal. If you have something to fall back on, you will. I had nothing to fall back on, right? Like I disconnected from the old job. I left. And so I had to be successful. And
Fear is a great motivator.
Yep.
It is. We are at our best when our back is up against the wall and we are scared. And probably took 10 years for me to be like, okay, right. And now listen, the momentum was always there. People would say, oh my God, this is great. You're getting this, everything's progressing. But, internally, you're still thinking like, oh my God, this could fall apart any second.
Yep.
Right. But after about a decade is when you take a breath and go, okay, maybe I got this.
It's a long time.
It is.
Lou, we sort of skipped past this question, and it's perfectly fine to put it here. Why did you choose this? Why did you step into this space versus using your MBA to do something else?
It just fit. I don't have a magic answer for that. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was out there interviewing, and these are the jobs that came to me, meaning like, hey, you want to be a planner? Here's how and I tell all the young people, everything that the recruiters tell you are true, right? That you're standing here to the left, right? Everything they're talking about is way over here to the right. right? Meaning that the income potential is unlimited. You can have control of your time. You run your own business. But everything they're talking about is way over here to the right, and you got to walk through this valley. And in this valley, there's a lot of bones, right? And so when they described what it could be to me and the ability, hey, the harder you work, the more this will build, the more you can provide for your family. You're in control. Control, I think, is extremely important. It's yours if you want to have it, but you got to want it, because there's a lot of other things you can do that to be mediocre in are way less stressful.
All right, so you just a moment ago said like this is the profession that has fit with you the most, and I guess I kind of want to dive into that just a little bit more. Is it because of the idea of the fulfillment of it? Because you're not just out there, like a shark, essentially, going out and scooping money from a river, so to speak. You are out there building wealth for others. You're helping others.
Yeah, think about what I do for a living. Right? All I do is have great conversations with people that they don't have with anybody else. Right? When we're talking about their dreams, their fears, things that they can't do on their own. They may not be good with money. It is one of the best professions, and you make a difference in people's lives. Like the best things for me is when a client, and listen, now we've got clients for literally, 30 years, when they'll say to me, hey, listen, man, when I first met you, all I had was debt. And by the way, that, I was never a person, I was never a person like, oh, I'm only going to talk to wealthy people, right? Like many of our clients, some of our biggest clients, when I first met them, they just had debt. Right. And so they'll say to me, hey, man, when I first met you, all I had was debt. You know what? I want to thank you. We saved for education, for the kids' colleges. We put money away for the back end. That is just dynamite. And then, by the way, I get to live all the great things with my clients, right? All the successes, promotions, buying and selling businesses, all that great stuff. And I also live all of the crappy things in life. And those moments when someone calls and says, hey, listen, I just got diagnosed, right? Someone passed away, disabled, and we did the planning, right? Where, hey, you put yourself in a very good position. We're okay. We got the defenses up for this. This is what we planned for. I cannot tell you how fantastic it is to be able to look back on that body of work and say, you know what, we did well for our clients.
I love that you're talking about some negative aspects of it too, though, right? Like, because life happens, like you say, someone gets diagnosed or what have you. I want to ask you about something very probably personal, because you take pride in your work, but I'm sure it happens to everybody. And that's like how you're handling a miscalculation or letting a client down, or, hey, I thought we had this handled and we're going to have to pivot here because this isn't going to work out. That's got to be devastating for you when you think you have all the plans in place and something didn't work out the way you anticipated or something of that nature. Talk about that downside a little bit.
Yeah. And you know what? I call it defense and offensive planning. Right. So on the defensive side, we cover all of the topics. Right. So, and it's pretty straightforward, right? It's your will planning, it's your life insurance, it's your disability insurance, your long-term care, right? Life insurance. And so we cover all of those pieces. So I am also, I do realize too, like when I'm talking defense, I'm coming from a life knowing that shit happens.
Right.
Right. And so when I talk defense, I'm very much, I think defense, everybody wants to talk offense. People will talk investments and what the market's doing, right? For hours. But in a moment's notice, our defensive conversations can become the most important. And so, on the defensive side, usually there's never been a like, oh, I wish we did something better. You know what I mean? Because we're covering it, right? The offensive side is very much any offensive conversation. If we're talking about the market, right? I'll always start and end the conversation with, look, what I'm about to tell you in $3 will get you on the subway, right? Because nobody knows what the market's going to do tomorrow, next week, next year. On the investment side, it is the toughest part of the job there is managing people's expectations and also managing all of the fear. Is a fear of losing out, right? It's a fear of loss. And a lot of the financial decisions, the investment decisions, especially people are handling them on their own, are come out of fear. And that's the worst position to be in. If you're responding to what's happening in the short term. So when I look back over the years, I don't have, moments of like, man, I wish we did this or did that. Because, quite frankly, it's like, no, we covered it because that's what we're paid to do. Do you know what I mean? And you got to be on top of it.
Well, I as somebody who has been working with Lou for a very long time, I often hear you in my head screaming, "We don't time the market." Like you say that all the time, and it's true because you're not a gambler. That's not your philosophy, and that's not how people grow and evolve.
No, it's not about timing the market. It's about timing your investments to your goals, right? Like, if you've got short-term goals, well, we don't take money. We don't take risk with that money. Yeah, if we got midterm, we're all right. We're not going to touch the money for 3 years, 6 years. We got time. So if we invest and the market gets beat up, we can wait it out. And if we're talking long-term, who cares? We got years, before we're going to touch the money. But dealing with those emotions, that is a major part of the job. My biggest job is to make sure my clients don't make the big mistakes in life.
Yeah. So, with all of that laid out and having talked a little bit about the philosophy, you've been in the business for 30 years. You've established a wonderful community around yourself. How would you describe your practice today and what do you see as the future of the practice and in some ways the future of Lou?
I look at the practice now and, it's a family capital partners, right? And what I'm really describing in that name is that we're a multi-family office, meaning that our clients, we help them with all of their planning and decisions. Quite often, we get all the calls, right? Like, hey, Lou, I think I'm gonna, should I lease or buy this car, right? I'm talking about the minutia on top of the bigger, hey, education, retirement, estate planning, and all those other pieces. And we partner with other family members and their other trusted advisors, and we approach it as a team. But most importantly, it's all about education, right? So we educate our existing clients. And Larry, like you said, sometimes I hear you in the back of my mind, right? And I hear that a lot on all different topics. But here's the most important part. Not only are we educating our clients, but for many of our families now, we're 3 generations deep,
wow.
Right? Grandma and grandpa are clients, mom and dad, and now the kids are clients. And so what we focus in on is educating the children as well. So quite often we're working with our clients' children when, and everybody's different, right? So it might be 15, 16. It might be when a child's finally 25 and they're starting to mature, if you will. But we start to teach them the basics, right? And so when they start their first job, now they're dangerous, right? Because they understand what a 401k is and investing and the planning. But more importantly, the biggest job is to make sure our clients are okay for the rest of their lives and then moving this money to the next generation. And often when I tell my clients, listen, we got to start educating the kids and give them an understanding of what you do and why. And usually they'll say to me initially, Listen, they're on a need-to-know basis, and they don't need to know anything, right? And I tell them, no, listen, that's a huge mistake, right? Because eventually we're going to give them the keys to this Maserati, right? The Maserati is the net worth, right? We're going to give them the keys. If we don't teach them how to drive, they're going to wrap this car around the tree. and you know, in this country, you know, the first generation to make money, you know, moves it to the next generation. That next generation loses 70% of it. And by the time it gets to the third generation, it's gone.
Wow.
And so, you know, the future of this practice is, you know, maintaining those family connections, being able to advise and service the families through a position of understanding and empathy. I think empathy is key in everything that we do.
I love how you're talking about educating the clients too. I think that's so important. There's so much we all don't know about this world. But one of the things you said early on in this conversation is the most important thing you do is listening. And I have to be honest with you. I love my financial advisor, but I'm getting a little jealous that there's a little bit of a financial therapy session that seems to happen when people are talking to you. That seems like a really viable thing. What is the absolute most important thing as a financial planner? Is it education? Is it listening? Is it all of the above? Just expound on that a little bit.
It's listening. You got to take a step back, right? And when you're speaking with someone, and whether they're talking about an opportunity or something that they're scared of, you really got to listen and find out what are the true concerns, right? What's most important to them? And the moment when you're talking, and by the way, I hear that quite often. This isn't financial planning. This is financial therapy, right? Because all the talk about numbers and whatnot, kind of important, but what's more important is what's important to you. What are your goals, right? And so when you're talking to somebody and you relay back to them, so what you're saying is this: when they go like, yeah, that's when you know you connected, right? Because you stepped in their shoes, you have empathy for their situation, and now you're planning, right, from a position of clarity. And I think what happens often when we're working with our clients, we take these conversations, and sometimes they might be complicated conversations. And I tell people, listen, if this was really, brain surgery, I wouldn't be doing it, right? Like, do you know what I mean? And so I'm able to take these, complex situations, like if we're talking about gifting assets and oh my God, the attorney's telling me to do this, this, and this, my neighbor's saying this. And I'm like, all right, listen, let's take a break. Let's take a breath here. What are you trying to do? What's really important to you, right? And the moment that we gain clarity on that, right? And we call that, above the planning horizon, right? Where the missions and goals are. If we get clarity above that planning horizon, then we go below. All the tactics and tools almost just rise to the top magically because we now got clarity. And I think that's what we're able to do for our clients is provide clarity in their goals so they can go make some good decisions and go back to enjoying life.
Absolutely. And what a rewarding way to spend your days and to have spent your years. Lou, pivoting from that to not a more meaningful conversation, but a conversation that is as important. We know that you're very involved with the Alzheimer's Association. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and there's no magic there. My brother Gene, that we spoke of before, my oldest brother, he got diagnosed when he was 60, and right after he retired from ABC, he gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he just turned 70 this summer. And I don't know, any of you guys had any experience with Alzheimer's?
My uncle near the end was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Yes,
I had a great grandmother who was very senile. I was young enough that I might not be using the right word.
Yeah,
Right.
And I think we all know somebody who's struggling with Alzheimer's. It's very scary.
Oh yeah, and and by the way, a lot of people relate Alzheimer's and they think it's an old farts disease, right? And it's not. It affects many people that are younger people. And by the way, and the more I learn about this, the scarier it gets, right? So Alzheimer's starts attacking your brain decades before the symptoms arrive. And so many people could be fighting this disease and they just don't know it because at the moment, there is no early detection, although it's starting to come to the surface now. It's like cancer. Like, beating cancer, the biggest factor is finding it early, right? And so the Alzheimer's, it can be in us now. It's like plaque on the brain affecting us, and we just don't know it. And so, I watch, it is, at the moment, it is a death sentence. And my brother Gene is leaving what they call the late moderate stage, getting into the late stage of this disease, which is, and now, going back to what we discussed, my pop died of diabetes. I watched my mother pass away from pancreatic cancer, and God, all the things I've lived through with my clients as well. When you watch someone suffer from Alzheimer's, you just watch them waste away and they forget everything.
Wow.
And if you think about it, you always thought like, the one thing you'd have is all the great time and memories you spent with your family. And this disease takes that and everything else. And so, yeah, I'm involved deeply with the association.
Lou, I mean, obviously we've done some of our research and we've seen the resume. You're still on the Manhattan Board of Directors for the Alzheimer's Association. You still your firm is one of the lead sponsors for the Manhattan Walk for Alzheimer's. Would you consider yourself at this point in your career more of a philanthropist?
No, I'm just Lou. I'm just trying to help. And I did we had a party for the top givers for the association a couple of weeks ago. And, I'm talking to the group and I'm like, listen, you guys got to understand, I'm not just some nice guy up here. And I feel bad for my brother. I'm scared as hell. I'm scared about fighting Alzheimer's. I'm scared for my children, right? So am I trying to shake the trees and get people involved? Yeah. And by the way, I do think that Alzheimer's is going to become one of the most important fights out there, meaning, so early detection's not here, but it's coming. So there's like 6 million people fighting this disease, closer to 7, and there's like 14 million family members trying to take care of them. And they predict that number is going to triple in a short period of time, especially when early detection comes out. And, I do think we're on the verge of the explosion of what we're dealing with, but just as important, man, this year they just came out with 2 treatments. Now, these treatments are for early stage, so can't help my brother Gene. So, but think about that. They're for early stage, right? Alzheimer's, but we got to know that you have it. And this is where the early detection comes in. And for years and years, the Alzheimer's raised money for research, and it was just hope. Something's going to come. And this year is the first year where they got 2 treatments. Early detection is in the works. And so like Alzheimer's got, I think like $330 million out there, and that's within 54 different countries, right? And they got like 1,000 different research projects cooking. It's going to become a very important cause because people are going to realize how large and big it's affecting us. And what a great time to be part of it, right? Because I can't imagine the last 30 years and nothing was really bubbling to the surface.
All right, so Lou, I kind of want to circle back to the beginning again. And this overriding theme that we've had in this entire conversation, the theme of family, right? So you were raised in a rather, you had, as you said, you kind of had a wonderful childhood. You had a wonderful mother, a very good father. You went into the family business at ABC. Then you created your own business in which you helped families themselves. Would you say your work now with Alzheimer's is the next family business for you?
Yeah, they're with us now. They're part of our family, right? Whether we like it or not, they are now part of our family. And now I get to watch them in action and the services they provide. Because, listen, I watch my sister-in-law, Claudia, and God love her, has taken unbelievably good care of my brother, Gene. But what a toll it takes on somebody. I mean, literally now, Gene is like an 8-year-old with attitude, right? And he's always got to be with Claudia. And I think at the moment now, I think I'm the only person that can come and say, let's go for a ride, right? And I can take him away. But it's about an hour and a half, and then he starts getting agitated, right? And he's looking for Claudia,
right?
And I got to bring him back. Yes, it's Alzheimer's is part of our family now. And the other thing mentioned in family, 3 of my 5 kids work with us now, right?
Wow.
And I have to
what
tell
a great
you,
feeling.
Yeah. Now listen, it is so cool seeing your kids every day. Right now, they don't think it's cool at all. Right?
Of course not.
But if you think about when your children get older, you're going to see them like twice a year, because they start their own families. You got to share the holidays with the other side of the family. And how dynamic it is to be able to bounce off of them and helping our family of clients, and of course, helping Alzheimer's as well.
What an amazing run, journey, circle, if that's the right word. That's what popped into my head in that moment. Lou, as you dealt with your kids coming into the practice, as you talk to other young people who are thinking about getting into this type of work, what advice do you have, or did you give to your kids and to other young people before they enter this world?
To me, it's pretty simple. And I've always told my kids, you got 3 rules. You got to get up early, you got to stay focused, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Those are the 3. If you run with those 3, there's no way that you're not going to be successful.
Incredible.
I've got 2 of those 3 guys. I can't get up early.
Get up early in the morning,
So,
no matter what. No matter how hard we try.
I think I'm out.
Yeah, now listen, I drive Colette nuts, right? Because I'll be up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness!
I'm ready to do something. But I think that all goes back to how much time do we have on this planet?
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
make the most of it.
What time
I'm going to bed at 4:30.
I was going to say, what time do you pass out at night?
Yeah, usually I'm in bed like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Oh, it's not that bad.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Lou, this has been an incredible journey and story, an inspiring one. It just feels good to hear about how you've created such an amazing life of purpose. So, Lou, thank you so much for joining this episode.
Lou, I got to tell you, you made finance seem exciting.
True.
Because it is. It is. Because it's not about the numbers.
Well, that was Lou Cannataro. Hopefully he lived up to the expectations that I set going into this conversation. And I think he did actually prove and demonstrate that finance can be fun.
I understand why you trust him, you respect him, you consider him your therapist, as you said before we started this interview. And the reason is because he really does think of his clients as family. Like, that is an overarching theme in his life, this notion of wanting to take care of family, right? Went into the family business at ABC, created a family business which takes care of families. And now, as part of the Alzheimer's Association, he is not only taking care of his own family, but he has branched out to say, I want to take care of other families as well. That's a guy you would call a true mensch in a real sense of the word. That he really goes out of his way to take care of others And the real reward at the end of the day, yes, it's financial, but the actual reward is in the lives he touches. That's the real reward you see with a guy like Lou. And in many ways, that's the more meaningful reward that he sees coming off of his many endeavors.
Yeah, I love how he talked about having conversations with people that nobody else has with these people. That these are very private, personal goals, desires, dreams. He talked about offense and defense. I thought that was a fascinating conversation about how he's keeping people safe and how he allows them to set up their world so that they can achieve these dreams and goals. I think these are very personal things, right? And we all go through them, and we all have these fears. We talked about fear being the great motivator with a lot of things. I know when I'm thinking about my money, I'm always thinking about, should I have done this? Should I have done that? He talked about not worrying about that, that you play offense, you play defense, and you don't really look back. I live my life with regrets, as a lot of you know listening to this show. And apparently Lou doesn't have any. He does the best he can for his clients, and it is near and dear to his heart. And that allows him to do things like he does for Alzheimer's, which is just so admirable. So fascinating conversation. I really did enjoy it. It did kind of make financial planning fun, and I learned a lot. So thank you, Lou, for educating me on what this was all about.
And picking up on that, I was very eager to hear, how Lou's journey began. And he grew up without anything. So, everything he has, he had to go out and get and hustle and find a way to build up a life. And the quick story that I'll tell, I've been working with Lou for, close to 20 years. And when I first met him, I didn't have anything, but I knew that I needed to start on this journey and I needed to start doing something. And I walked in there, I had crazy student loan debt with high interest rates and everything else. And I wanted to invest a little bit of money. He wouldn't take it. He said, I don't want to take your money until you pay off that debt. So that's just, the quality of guy that we're talking about, because he's looking long-term, playing defense and doing the right things. So it's just how he lives and how he's been, and that has been my interaction with him. So just a very special person and a very special look into what it takes to become a successful financial planner. So Lou Cannataro, thank you so much for joining this episode of No Wrong Choices. We also thank you for joining us. If this or another journey story inspired you to think of a friend who could be a great guest, please let us know by sending us a note via the contact page of NoWrongChoices.com. As I mentioned off the top, please support us by following No Wrong Choices on your favorite podcasting platform while giving us a 5-star rating. And then last but not least, we encourage you to join the No Wrong Choices community by connecting with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X by searching for No Wrong Choices. On behalf of Tushar Saxena and Larry Shea, I'm Larry Samuels. Thank you again for joining us, and always remember, there are no wrong choices on the road to success. We learn from every experience.